Hey everybody, as we're just getting kicked off for today's scheduled live, I'm going to try and do more scheduled lives in the future. As TikTok is spreading out the word that I'm coming live, I'd appreciate if you want to jump in and answer this question, and I'll start off by answering questions in the comments, and then I'll be taking guests as well. So if you want to jump in the guest queue shortly and discuss these things, probably give everybody about 2 minutes to discuss this. Can we ever become the United States of America again? Or will we always be a divided America? So comment below and then possibly join me live. And how or what should we unite behind? So if you're someone who believes that let me turn off this music. If you're someone that believes we should be uniting, maybe you don't. Maybe you think we're always going to be divided, and that's okay. I'd like to know what you think about that. If you think that's feasible. I don't know if that's actually feasible. I believe we're going to have to be the United States again, and we're going to have to stop being pitted against one another and be divided. So what's up, TWHMT? Welcome, and welcome, Kelsey. Please don't doom scroll, as we're just getting started, and TikTok's going to take a minute to get this out to as many people as possible. If you haven't seen my last video, which has gotten 230,000 views now, talking about the real threat to democracy. So we're going to be talking about that as well. So what's the real threat? And it doesn't matter if you're MAGA or you're liberal or you're anywhere in between. People don't understand, or some people do, but most people don't truly understand what's happening behind the scenes because they, of course, haven't done the research. It's not easy to do the research behind the people that are actually pulling the strings behind Trump and MAGA, and how they're using Trump and MAGA to, basically steal our democracy away from us. I mean, that's what's really happening. If you haven't seen that last video, I implore you to please go watch the last video. It's not pinned yet, but it's the last full video I made. I didn't think it was going to be as successful as it was because I didn't think it was 5 minutes long. So it was 5 minutes, 5-minute video on TikTok. You often think that that's not going to work, but people seem to appreciate the nuance of it instead of just talking about, special interests as this sort of big umbrella of who is special interests. It actually goes a lot deeper, and there's many layers to the special interest, and there's a couple of very nefarious players in those special interests that are using our division to take over our democracy completely, right? Many of us know that we're not functioning as a democracy anymore, and of course, we're permanently divided. This is one of the comments here by, I don't believe that's true because everything is cyclical. I think that if there's a unifying message around something that we all agree, thanks for the lightning bolts. I love the lightning bolts. Lightning bolts are cool. And by the way, as more people are joining quickly, if you haven't followed, please follow. And more importantly, go to my profile when you get a chance afterwards and click on the link underneath my profile. There's a bunch of options there. One is to read the plan that you can see right there. Another one, more importantly, is to follow me on YT. Because it's really important. I've had a lot of new followers there, but I'm just getting started over there, and you need to diversify this audience that so many people watch me here on TikTok. I want to diversify. So there's a link to join somewhere else on a different platform, on the YT platform. Please subscribe to me there as well. And then if you want to be part of the movement, there's also a link in there. So just check out the links underneath my profile. All right, so Hazel says, no unity, those days are over. Is that coming from someone who's leans red, leans blue? What's it going to be? So let me take a few questions here. No one's waiting in the queue yet. So can we ever become the United States of America, or will we always be a divided America going forward? And I think you just have to ask yourself a simple question. Thanks for letting you know, conservative. Why do you think that? Is there no one issue that would unite just all Americans, right? No matter where you fall in the political spectrum. Is there no single issue that is the root cause, that you don't think is the root cause of everything? Because I do. And some of you who watch me will know what that is, and you might leave it in the comments. But I'm pretty sure I know what that is, because when I make a video about these things and they go semi-viral, that indicates to me that there is a couple issues that everybody would agree with, every sensible person would agree with. And that is the corruption by these deep special interests. So I'm going to leave it at that for a moment. So thanks everybody for joining. All right, so we're getting started well, pretty good now. All right, so can we ever become the United States of America again, or will we always be a divided America? So if you can, I know it's difficult in the comments, try and be succinct, but ask some questions in the comments. If we're always going to be a divided America, will there even be an America eventually? How can you take 370 million people, 350 to 370 million, and are we going to always stay divided? It makes no sense. Like, I went through the airport in Seattle a couple months ago, and I said, "Welcome to the United States of America." And all I could see when I saw that sign, it was a giant sign, very welcoming sign, and you just saw this word, United States of America. And the irony, or it was just sad seeing that sign, because we all know it's not true. It's completely false. We're not the United States. Like, technically, yeah, the states are united in a singular country, but in terms of its people, not by a long shot, right? And that is really, really sad. And it's a huge problem. We all know it. Even if you're MAGA, or you're on the conservative side, or you're liberal, I am a staunch independent. So I can understand reality in between. Like, if you're conservative or MAGA, why would you want to continue going that way? Because you're just going to continue to blame the libs? Like, give me a break, grow up. And if you're a liberal and you just say MAGAs or conservatives and some of MAGA are so far gone that we're not even going to try and reason with them anymore. And I understand you maybe not reason with them, but you have to figure out a way to start unifying around a singular issue. This ridiculousness that if you're completely omitting and belittling a half of society. I understand that you don't agree with the issues, that there's a lot of division regarding issues, but most of that division is being manifested by the media, by social media, by the influencers in social media, by our politicians, and by special interests. That means foreign governments, foreign agents, corporate special interests, the Christian nationals, and the corporate dictators, which someone also said, which in one of my videos, I said, you can call them technocrats. And that's right? They're sort of technocrats, and I call them the corporate dictators from Silicon Valley, the Elon Musks, the Peter Thiel of the world, that they're trying to take over our economy from a technical sense. So we the people, no divide. So let me know. So what is the one issue, or maybe there's more? Like, let's ask the question to you all. What other issue can everyone unite around? And it won't happen. It won't happen overnight, right? So, but you have to people have to start waking up instead of fighting about immigration all the time and other issues, which are really important. I'm not discounting. There it is. That's, if you had to answer in one answer, what's the thing we have to unite around? It's around, I think, when only good vibes sheer, whatever it might be, said money. I would say greed, right? We have to unite around the problem regarding money in our political system and greed. Like, that's the one to me that stands out. That has to be the thing. But maybe there's something else. Obviously, there's a lot of things you could throw out there, but what's going to be as more important than uniting around eradicating or eliminating money from our political system? And again, that comes from the foreign agents and the foreign governments, Russia, China, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, dozens of others that are trying to divide us or trying to get our government to handle, be in the best interest of them, not us, or whether it's the Christian nationals, which, by the way, if you're watching this and you're Christian, when we talk about the Christian nationals, it's not about attacking Christianity whatsoever. It's because the Christian nationalists have done that themselves. They have completely perverted Christianity into their warped view of wanting to take over our democracy and instill a theocracy. They want to have a religious country. Make no mistake about it. And if you have any respect whatsoever for the Constitution and the Founding Fathers, you know that they already went through this exercise back in 1776 through 1789, where they determined that the freedom of religion was a right and freedom. It's truly a freedom of religion, just like every other freedom, where the Constitution was not ever supposed to be any law. No law is supposed to be created in this country that is supposed to be benefit one religion or another, or there's not supposed to be any law created based on religion whatsoever. So if you don't respect the Constitution and what the Founding Fathers did as an exercise, then you certainly don't respect American values. And I would say you are, in some respects, a reason or a traitor to American values and American democracy. All right, so I'm going to read a few comments. If you have any questions, can we become the United States of America? Because I implore everybody, I don't care if you're liberal or you're MAGA, like take your head out of your asses, out of the sand, whatever you want to refer to it, and realize, yeah, you can be angry with people, but if you're going to completely shut them out and say, we don't need them, or we're going to continue to always try and win and trying to always get our way, which is what MAGA and the right side are doing right now, right? Because they're in full control of the government. But then if the blue team or the liberals want to say, well, we have to take back complete control and we want to shut out MAGA, that doesn't work. That cannot work. And we're going to continue to be the divided states of America if we allow that to happen, if we continue with this ridiculous tribal mentality. And again, I am not excusing the deep divisions in some issues. I'm just saying those issues are not as deep as you're led to believe they are. So I always say it's gang warfare. Yeah, it's right. It's tribal warfare, right? It's like one Indian tribe versus another. It's one team. Like everything, even in our sports, the toxicity of our society, that if you follow one team and you wear a shirt to the other person's stadium and then you get completely trolled the entire time and sometimes much worse, that is absurd. That the tribal mentality that we're doing with everything, with our sports, with our politics, with all the issues, like, I don't know where people, well, I get it from a sociological point of view, where they get it from, but we should be evolving past this sort of tribal mentality because we're supposed to be the United States of America, and clearly we're a divided America, and it's not going to work out well for any single one of us normal people if it continues to go that way. We're going to continue to give up power to authoritarianism, or autocracy, or even much worse, which is no different than if you went too far the other way. So where do they get it from? Thanks for the likes, everybody. Appreciate all the likes. Please tap the screen, and this gets it exposed to more and more people. If anyone wants to jump into the box and talk about, have a discussion about how can we ever become the United States of America again, or will it always be a divided America? You can take either point of view, do it respectfully. Let me know your thoughts, and let me know if you have an issue that we can all rally around, because I think it's greed and money, right? I'm almost certain of it, just because the amount of response that I get on these videos when we talk about these things. Explain how people found Donald Trump fit for office. I still cannot. All right, let me explain that, Elsie Ramirez. I'll do my best to explain it. Anyway, they fell into the trap, like many people use, about the deep state. I would say probably the biggest thing was the deep state. You know, they have issues. Donald Trump did two things really well, and I hope you recognize this. I think he's a despicable, I don't think he's a despicable human being. He has no values. Let's get this straight. He has no values other than valuing money. He has no immoral integrity. He has no decency whatsoever. So let's just get that out of the way. That is true. But remember what he did really well. Politics is about two things and two things only: hope and hate. You could either run on hope or you can run on hate. Hate is very powerful. Dividing people is very powerful. Hope is also very powerful. The thing about Trump is he did both. So to those people who followed him and wanted to see him as a no establishment or anti-establishment person, believe it or not, he gave those people hope because he wanted to drain the swamp or clean out the deep state. And to them, that means, make government more efficient. I think that's what it means to them anyway. So to those people that wanted to be believers, they saw Donald Trump as someone who was portraying hope. But many other people, or the other half of the country, saw his hate and how his division, whether it was against Mexicans or any religion or whatever it might be, those people saw the lack of moral integrity and values that this man doesn't have. So he did something that was interesting. He was able to run on hope to a certain demographic of people and to a certain group of people, and at hate at the same time. And that is really powerful, and you can't discount it. Again, I think he's a despicable human being. And he doesn't, he's a transactional president. He only cares about making money and making deals. All right, so we got our first guest. So let's talk about this. Only Good Vibes, welcome to the show. And then TWHMT, you're going to be next. So you're next in line. Only Good Vibes, can you hear me? I can't hear you. And I don't think anyone else can then either. All right. Only Good Vibes. I'm going to kick you for a minute. I'm going to try a different guest because maybe it is on TikTok's end for some reason. Let's find out. You can jump back into the queue right away and I'll bring you back in just a moment. But we can hear her, but I can't hear her. That is interesting. Okay. Thanks for everybody letting you know that you can hear her. I can't. I don't know why. I can hear everything else. Give me a minute. All right, I see what's going on. Well, that's a problem. I see that the audio from you guys, let me do a disconnect and reconnect and see if it gets in here. Okay. Only Good Vibes. I think I can hear you now. Yes, I can. All right. So thank you, everybody, for letting me know that you could hear her and I couldn't. Okay. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you.
What generation are you and where do you sit on the political spectrum? 2 questions I always ask.
Millennium. And I guess you could say I'm a liberal. I go to the left.
Okay, cool. All right. So what are your thoughts here?
I mean, united, we could be united. That would be nice. But I just think at this time, there's just a lot of division on different subjects. And I think one thing we can get together is maybe money. We could get together on that issue because we all want to have the best interests at heart for financial purposes, right? So
Right.
I think that could be one thing that we can agree on. But some things, other things, we just can't agree on. And I don't think we might not be able to be united again due to those reasons.
What pick one issue? What don't you think that people can come to? The majority of people, I'm not going to say all people, right? But what one issue do you think will never get people united behind?
I guess for me, it would be immigration. I guess because he ran on it. It was one of his biggest things. He ran on mass deportation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are in support of it. So a lot of people are against it, but a lot of people are in support of it. So I mean, there's division there with that, right? And I think a lot of people have been misinformed. They've been very misinformed on that subject, and therefore the fear that this administration is putting out to people, it causes them to hate people because of that reason. And if you try to talk to them and explain things, they just don't listen. They just don't want to hear the truth. And I mean, of course, I'm open to hearing truth from both sides, right? If there's something factual that one side does, I listen to, but some MAGA supporters, they just don't listen. It's hard to actually talk to them because when you have that block on you, you won't be able to get through most likely to somebody.
Yeah, the fact is that while the facts are that Obama deported 3 million illegal immigrants, which is at a rate just as high as what Trump's doing right now, right? That's a fact.
He did. Yep. He
The
did.
perceived fact, though, is that that's not true. The perceived fact is that Trump is the master of deportation and only he did it, and they agree with that. But perception is, it's not just an expression. Perception is reality. Perception is truly reality, right? So I think you're right. So even though the reality doesn't match the perception, we may not be able to agree for a while on that issue unless maybe it could be repackaged a little bit differently, which, like you said, is probably going to be difficult to do, right?
Yes, because some people have their views on immigration, and they think if you're, well, see, things they say too is about immigrants get benefits, and they do not get benefits. If you're undocumented, the only thing you can get is emergency care, and they do pay into the system. They pay into Social Security, they pay tax, a lot
Right.
of tax actually into this economy. So I think the lies being spread by the administration is really sad that they say that they're getting benefits when they're not. If you're here getting benefits, you have some kind of legal status if you are getting anything. If you have children, they're citizens, you might be getting benefits for them, but they are United States citizens, so that's a different aspect as well. But I just think the lies, there's no truth, what is being said by this administration, and even like, for example, blaming the shutdown on immigrants getting Medicaid, immigrants this. And if they're getting Medicaid emergency care, it's a very low percentage. Most people getting it are citizens who are going to be affected by
Right.
this. Clinics and hospitals.
Well, let's just take the high level though. So let's assume that we're both right and that we'll never come to an agreement with the left and the right will never agree that immigration will continue to butt heads on immigration, on things like abortion, on things like gun rights, and many other aspects. Let's say that's never a winning formula because we have egos and we have tribal mentality on, you could even suggest both sides, right? So let's say that's true. So you're right. I think we stay divided in that case. But what about if we actually find an issue where instead of being distracted, and it's an important issue, I'm not saying it's not, I'm not trying to downplay it. What I'm trying to do is figure out how do you unite people, because there's always something that's more important, like who's the enemy of our enemy? Who's the real threat, right? So we don't agree on many issues. Let's say left and right doesn't agree on some issues. So a solution to that might be find an issue or a threat that applies to both sides, left and right, so that you sort of table the fighting, the infighting, because we're supposed to be united, and we find a different target that affects everyone all the same. I think that's the winning formula.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we could find one topic where we can agree on it, like you said, and move forward. But I'd
'Cause-
like to, I like to see that happen. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't want to think anybody's an enemy, and I think most people, I hopefully don't want that. We don't want the division, but I just see some hate from some people, and I don't know if we can move forward at this point. Or
Did-
so, on some
Did you
aspect.
see the last video I posted? Did you happen to see that one?
No, I'm sorry. I actually just came upon your live. This is my very first time. I just so
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, I'm glad to have. I love having Gen Z and millennials here. I have about 50% women and 50% men that tune into these lives and watch my videos, which is really cool. And there's more and more younger generations, the Gen Z generation joining as well, which I'm hoping to reach. So watch that last video. I think that'll paint a big picture on what I'm trying to do, on trying to tell people it's not just this umbrella of special interests. There's a lot of different special interests, but the real threats to all of us as a society have to be the special interests between corporate special interests, between the foreign agents and foreign actors, the Christian nationals that are trying to take over our government, and the corporate dictators or technocrats, so like the Elon Musks, the Peter Thiels, the David Sacks of the world. Those are the real threats. And when I ask people in that video, it seems like the vast majority of MAGA and liberals agree that greed, like the infiltration of money in our political system, is the root cause of every problem. And the vast majority of people tend to agree with that. So that's what I'm always trying to promote, is figure out that one issue that we can all rally behind, that the one that's the root cause of causing, because these billionaires and these special interests are flooding the narrative about all these cultural issues and all these society issues. But really what they're doing is just manipulating the narrative, because they control a vast majority of money. They also control a vast majority of social media and traditional media. And now these technocrats in this specific instance also are controlling most of AI. So they're able to control so much of the narrative, including all the right-wing propaganda people. And then there's also people who continually are promoting left-wing, like you have the Dean Withers and Parkers on TikTok who are just, always picking fights with Trump voters and belittling them and basically doing it for the same reason, just to grift. So that's my thoughts. So
Okay.
thanks for your points of view. I really appreciate you joining, though.
No problem. No problem. Have a great day.
You too. All right. That was not my best articulation of the problem for sure. Mr. Globo, have you sit in as usual. Welcome, Mr. Moderator. And then I'm going to invite Mr. TWHMT.
TK,
What's up, Mr. Global? You on lunch break?
how you living?
I'm doing all right.
I'm a-
Took the day off yesterday, but I'm back.
There you go. There you go. I saw you're on, so I thought I'd hop in.
Awesome.
I have an
Awesome.
easy day today, so
Yeah, drop out if you have anything going on, of course, drop in, drop out, whatever you need to do. Welcome,
You bet.
TWHMT.
Hey, what's up?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm excellent. How are you? Thanks for doing this. It's awesome. I love everything.
What
So-
generation are you, and where are you on the spectrum? on
I'm
the
like,
political spectrum.
Well, I'm staunchly independent like you.
Awesome.
These days I might be considered left leaning, but I've definitely actually veered more towards the right these days. But I'm young Gen X. I was born in 81. So,
81, so you're millennial.
well, I guess so. I guess you call it that, but I don't.
No, wait.
myself
No,
a-
I'm sorry. I'm wrong. You're right. You're Gen X. You're
Yeah.
absolutely 81. You're definitely Gen X.
It's a micro generation there.
Yep.
Anyways, it don't matter. So all these issues that are really blowing up these days, I think everything has to do with rhetoric, and people are going to think I'm crazy for saying it, but this is a psyop. We're living in a psyop right now. Okay, in the fact that using harsh rhetoric and taking hard stances on things really divides people, and they do it in order to control. Okay, so it doesn't really matter what you think about deep of immigration or food stamps or anything like that. The rhetoric that's surrounding it creates a reaction from people. It's problem, reaction, solution. They have a solution. They have an end goal that they want to make, and so they create a problem, okay, which creates a reaction, and that solution is their plan. Okay, so
who are they? Or so look at so if you think this is one singular psyop, and if so, that means it's controlled by one group essentially. Is that what you're
I think there's lots and lots of different psyops, and I'm not going to say that I know who the people are pulling the strings.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you weren't going down a rabbit's hole of a total conspiracy of like, a certain group of globalists are controlling the narrative, making sure. Okay, so you're just basically making assumptions. So there's lots of different forces using speech, weaponizing speech, sort of in a psyop sort of manner. Is that fair?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and the only way to really combat that is really just be disciplined in yourself. And instead of like a tennis match where they say one hateful thing, you slap it back and say another hateful thing. That's really, really exacerbating it. A lot of times it's so hard. It's so hard not to do that because they really bait you into. And I'm guilty of it too.
We all are. Absolutely.
And it's tearing us apart. And I'm not going to say that. Here's the other thing is the only way that there is no unification is if we're not willing to do it. You know what I mean? And the other thing, if you have a lot of animosity between two parties who were friends in the beginning, and then there's animosity, there's a greater chance of those people coming closer together than before. Okay, it's like you said before, you can run on fear or hate.
Mhm.
So
So at the end of the day, like, how do we become united? Like, what do you think? How do we become united? Or are these? I don't. I understand your point of view. Psyops. I just like to call them. There's hundreds, thousands of different forces that are using speech or information to get whatever in their best interest, whatever motive they have, right? So, you can call them psyops. I don't think it's sort of that nefarious, but maybe it is. Like, it doesn't matter
I
really.
really do. I think it really is. And another thing is, like, I think a false sense of security is more dangerous than realizing what the real truth is. You know what I mean? I do think that, people, even in the government, maybe in Israel, who knows, are using these devices to control the masses. Okay.
Mhm.
So,
Sure.
So,
but
Can I
yeah, go.
can I jump in?
Yeah, please.
I think the first well, this is just my opinion. I think one of the things that both the right and the left is recognizing is that we have foreign influence. And I think that's our first, my opinion, I think that's our first thing that we have to deal with. We have to get all of that foreign influence so that we can actually govern ourselves and make our decisions for ourselves. And then the billionaires and the technocrats that you talk about, TK, all the time is like second priority, right? Because those people are, most of them, at least I think, are actual American citizens. But I think the first thing is you have to get all the foreign influence out first. And that's a right and a left thing. Even people on the left, they agree, and people on the right, they agree. So that's the one thing that both sides can agree on right now. At least that's my
Yeah,
view.
I would like to. I would think we should be more ambitious and just do all money because you take that the greed and the money, the influence, whether it's by foreign interest. See, here's an important distinction that I don't think people think lobbying is always evil, and
right.
the way it
It's
is
not.
today, it's not. It's paid lobbying that has a very specific agenda that with limitless amount of money to influence as many amount of people. That's the evil. Lobbying
It's
is
the
a,
business.
is a business and it's important. Like we need to have countries and all countries, adversaries and allies alike, communicating with us. Corporations need to be communicating about the economy. Religious
The
groups
end users
need to
need
be
to be united.
communicating with our politicians, but none of them should be buying influence, which is bribery, right? If they're buying it, it's bribery. If they're just natural, organic lobbying, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just education.
Exactly.
For sure.
Right.
But yeah,
When I
there's a lot of money in it, and the more hate that's out there, the more people who are moving around it, the more money that's going to be generated around it, and people who know how to capitalize on it too. Citizens United is one big thing. I live in a state where Citizens United was blocked, believe it or not, and they're going to take the Montana plan, hopefully national. They need to get dark money out of politics.
What group is that?
And
What group did you say?
Citizens United.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Citizens United, but what is you saying there's a group that's trying to reverse Citizens United that you mentioned specifically, or did I just miss that?
Called the Montana Plan. Yeah, I mean, it was struck down in Montana, so it's not as effective in Montana as it is in others. Campaign contributions they have to be disclosed.
Okay. All right. So are you new to my channel, by the way?
I've been following for about a week.
Okay, cool. So then you probably heard me talk
Fairly-
about a 28th Amendment. Like, I think it needs to be a constitutional amendment to make sure that all elections are publicly funded by individuals, meaning human beings, and
Yeah.
not right.
Yeah.
So very similar. I think it has
and
to
I
be.
read your plan.
Okay, you did. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm like mobilizing, dude. I am like currently looking for canvassing jobs. I'm looking for things like that. I mean, I have a part-time job. I lost my job a few weeks ago, so I'm in the perfect position right now to be able to mobilize. Last year I walked all around my Senate district canvassing for nonpartisan candidates and issues. Actually, union issues is what it is, and people think that's a progressive leftist organization, but it's not. It's actually very independent. It's bipartisan.
Right.
So
Okay, awesome.
But
Well, thanks for your point of view and thanks for your contributing. No matter how many people, whether it come from MAGA, liberals, or independents, if we need to get involved in civics in some aspect, whether it's like what I'm doing here on a social media platform, whether it's canvassing. But the more we continue to talk about issues, independent issues, the more we'll continue to butt heads and fight. Unless it's sort
for
of
sure.
something that's principle based, like, hey, we need to come together, and it needs to be around greed and money and making sure. My other, obviously, as you know from the plan. By the way, if anyone hasn't read the plan, please go to my profile and read the plan. It's also about a 29th Amendment, making sure that if you're a politician, it can't be a career, right? It was never supposed to be a career. It's supposed to be a temporary civic service, and we need to have strict term limits in play, because if you remove money and you remove people from staying in power too long, then they won't get corrupted, right? And then they'll actually
If I
serve the
could just
people.
say one thing before I'm out of here
Yeah,
first, I mean, I would suggest that you personally look into the Montana plan.
I already pulled it
Also,
up.
I have some other. Okay, and then also look at getting an actual community together, like a Discord or something like that. Discord is kind of hard to navigate for some people. I don't know, but I think it's the easiest to set up. But also, you should get merchandise. Okay, and this is not to fill your own pocket, but it creates a novelty factor. When I'm learning currently, I'm in other things, but if you put out a novelty factor, people gravitate more towards it, and
Yeah, that's a good point. All those things I hope to
yeah,
do as I grow the audience. Like, you take the libertarians, they like to have these shirts they sell that say taxation is theft. Like, that's one of the things that comes out of the crypto and libertarian views. But it's actually very powerful, because you wear that taxation is theft and everybody sees it. It resonates with people, like, because they hate taxes, right? So all these things, like a Discord as well, is something that I'd like to do in the future, because in order to reach Gen Z, you got to be in Discord.
yeah.
But at some point, you got to first try and grow an audience one or two places. That's what I'm trying to do, and then you continue to expand more to IG and to Discord and to it's just a big lift, right? Trying to be everywhere at once with a small audience is difficult to do.
I can help you with that. We just gotta connect somehow.
Okay,
All right.
send me a DM. Appreciate
Thanks.
it, man. Thanks.
Talk to you later.
See ya.
You're doing a lot, TK, all on your own.
Most days, like yesterday, I was a little overwhelmed. I was doing a whole bunch of administrative stuff, and I was like, man, I want to jump on live because I can't. I really enjoy being on the lives, but I was like, but I also have to do my own internal bureaucracy.
Yeah, making sure all your ducks are in a row.
Right, exactly. All right, so if anyone else wants to join in, thanks for. Sorry, I don't know your name, and that username was tough to pronounce. So thanks for joining. That was a good view. I wanted to ask him. Oh, there you go again. I wanted to ask him if he realizes, because I don't think most people do, and I say it often, is how many independents are there in this country, like non-registered?
I gotta say thank you for whoever just did that. They gave me a hat and a mustache, so I appreciate it. Sorry.
Oh, I thought you did that.
Somebody sent it to me. Looks like anyways, I don't know.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
Oh boy, that's a tough one, man. The
Oh,
usernames.
Verse Vixen. Oh, she's in here. Okay. I'm familiar with her. She's a friend of mine, so
Oh,
sorry.
awesome. Dragon 523, you're up next, and then we have one other person in the queue. We're gonna try and keep this to about 2 to 3 minutes for each person, because I don't want guests sitting around in the queue too long. So, Dragon, what's up, man?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay. Thanks for having me on. This is the first time I've caught your feed, but I like what you have to offer.
Thank you.
I am a Gen Xer. I was born in '77, and right now, I don't want either part of the party system. I am independent of all of that. I grew up in a Democratic family, in a Republican state, so a lot of conflict.
I grew up in a Republican family and in a Democratic state.
Yeah. So, and I've been independent for a very long time. I've been able to look at both sides and go, yeah, that these are good points, but why are we fighting about it? You know what I mean? And that's and I see that that's your message, that we have to get to we have to stop being divided. And right now, our system, it 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 is sort of working. And but here's the thing: there's it creates too much division, even within trying to find unity, which because not everybody's going to be on the same page, and people who don't recognize that are blind, in my opinion. And yeah, you're right. We need to find the biggest issue that we can, that most people can get onto, so that we can become a majority and unite through across party lines, across racial lines, all these other lines. And I really believe that the money in politics is the biggest issue that we have, with all the lobbying and everything that corporations do to push their agendas, and other things like that. It's got to go.
Yeah.
We need people in government that are not going to be influenced by all this money and power to do what these powerful people want to get done, which only benefits them.
It's a major mind shift that we have to have, because the practical reality is that we only think we can vote blue or red. So we just sort of pick whatever way we're sort of falling towards, and we feel like there's no other option. But when you actually do the real math is there are 75 million people that are not registered with either the Republican Party or Democratic Party. That doesn't mean they're not leaning one way or the other. Of course, they're voting one way or the other, but they've chosen not to. And then within, let's just say, the right side, when you talk about MAGA is not all the 77 million people that voted for Trump. In that group, let's say there's really like 30, maybe 50% that are hardcore MAGA that may not be reachable. And then there's also another half of them that are just really conservative, good, hardworking people that are conservative, that may not fully understand the extent of some of the things that are happening. And those people can be reached. And the same thing, and then on the liberal side, not everybody is highly progressive liberal, or, there's a lot of people. So to me, the math shows that there's more sensible people or rational people than there are extreme irrational people. But none of us think there's any representation there, and they're right, there is none. So that has to be the narrative. The narrative has to be there could be something else if we wanted there to be something else. And what is that thing that we unite around? Like you said, has to be the money. Has to be the money.
Has to be, because they're squeezing every dollar they can from us and keeping us under thumb. And it's, we're slaves. Slavery was never truly abolished. It just adapted. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Transformed.
Transformed in something less racial, consequential, and more just demographic based, right?
Yeah, because it's the bottom versus the top, essentially. It's everybody underneath all this authoritarianism and all the money in politics. The rest of us are just trying to find a foothold and stay alive, essentially. And the system itself has us so divided, looking this direction, that direction, and people get enthralled with that. And
Right.
Like you had said, even was that you that was talking about even the sports stuff that's going on in this country? How people and I gotta I'm no different. I've been
A distraction of the sports, is that what you
it's
mean?
all distraction. It's
Sure.
all distraction.
That's why
Yeah.
I've gotten away from being a strong sports fan. I watch sports a lot less now because I realize the level of exploitation that's happening in sports, even to destroy my weekends. Like if my team doesn't win and I'm upset the rest of the day, like I'm like, WTF, like why am I upset that some 20-year-olds lost a game and now it's affecting my life? And now next week I got to go out and buy a jersey and I got to root my team on harder, or I got to bet on my team. It's so ridiculous. And I enjoy the competition, but to where sports has gotten to today, it's actually become much more, it's much deeper. And obviously it's a lot more political based and so forth.
Well, they're exploiting human nature.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
It's
no different than the sport of what we're doing on social media when there's left and rights arguing with each other. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But-
And they used to do that in Rome, in the Colosseums.
Right.
You know, it's the same thing.
Good point.
They've been using the same kind of tactics on us, but it evolves every time that we push back.
Right.
right.
Well, Dragon, I appreciate you coming on. We got a bunch of people in the queue, so I want to get to some other people as well. So thanks very much for joining. I hope you follow and please read the plan and follow me on that other platform if you can, because I need to get to 1,000 people over there before my lives reach a lot of people on that network as well.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Thanks.
All right, I want to answer a quick question. And we got a couple of people in the queue, so you're coming up next. Retro Historian, you're up next. But I just want to answer Ashley's question. So Retro, I'm going to let you in and then just answer Ashley's question. Ashley, how do you get the right to behind universal health care? You know what? I don't know. I'd like to do the numbers. Bernie has done a really good job, Sanders, of making it much more tolerable on the right to consider universal health care. I think there's still a narrative shift. Like people think when you talk universal health care, that the government is going to be issuing health care. And I think that has to start there when you realize that nothing changes. It's just who's paying for the health care. The hospitals can stay the same, the doctors, that's what Medicaid and Medicare are. It's everything is the same system. It's just you're putting a limit on how much they can make and someone else is paying for it. And I think if you got that message out to more people on the right, because I believe a lot of people in rural America are not that far away from considering this. I think many, many people would like that option, at least the option, not to say that it has to go to universal health care first and foremost, but if you have that option, which is what Obama wanted, he wanted a government option and still have all the private healthcare companies just the way they were. But of course, that's a really big threat to those corporate for-profit healthcare services.
Have you seen any of the videos of people on TikTok, TK? There was this lady, she went to, I think it was Taiwan or Japan or something, where they have really good healthcare. And she gave her personal experience with the whole situation. So she paid, what do they call it? Like traveling medical stuff or something. There's like this big movement or thing. But
You have a lot of people
anyways,
going to Mexico for healthcare too these days.
yeah, she spent like $500. They put her up in a hotel and she was there and talked to like 5 different doctors about everything, had scans, x-rays, and all the stuff that she needed to have done for $500. Like, and then you come here and we're spending like
It
30,000, 40,000, 100,000. It's
goes
crazy.
back. It goes back to the lobbyists and the special interest groups. That's what it all goes back to. Like
100%.
we can argue all day about whether you think healthcare is a commodity or a right. Take that out of it. Take that argument out of it. Unless you get rid of the special interest and the lobbyists, nothing's going to change. That's what you need to do first before you even argue about whether you believe it's a right or a commodity, which I think it's both. Then again, that goes into what is a right. Anyways, that's. But what I wanted to say about your thing as a historian of America, we've never not been divided, but we've also been divided. What do I mean by that? There's been certain instances in American history where we have come together. Oklahoma City bombing, I remember it. We came together as Americas. September 11th, Columbine, we came together as Americans, right? Hurricane Harvey, I was down there. It didn't matter what political aisle you were on. You helped your fellow American because tragedy. It was a travesty. Katrina, same thing. But when people sit here and say, oh, it's the worst we've ever been, no, it's not. They're looking at it from their recency bias because they're living it now. If you look at it from objectively speaking, this is not the most divided we've been in. I would argue the 1960s Vietnam era was pretty divided. Hell, the Civil War objectively would probably be the most divided we've ever been. Objectively speaking, right? When you have fellow Americans at war with fellow Americans.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's recency bias why we say we're the most divided in history. We're not. But in saying that, politically divided, yes. And what do I mean politically divided? I mean In my opinion, Bill Clinton was the last president to reach across the aisle with the Republican House. Remember, Republicans had a huge majority sweep in 94 under Newt Gingrich. I mean, they swept everything. That was the rise of Rush Limbaugh and, that conservatism we see today. That happened in the mid 90s with Rush Limbaugh and Newt Gingrich. Bill Clinton did a really good job at reaching across the aisle to get stuff done. He put computers in every school. That was a joint effort, right? 30% unemployment rate, 30 years unemployment rate of that time. Home ownership was up. Bill Clinton's economy was great. We all know that. But it's because he reached across the aisle with the Republicans who controls the budget? The House. The House controls the budget.
Used to.
Well, they
It
still do.
it still does, but it's not always being administered anymore. Right.
No, because then it gets to the Senate, and the Senate says we don't like that. Then they kick it back to the House. And it's politics.
Right.
But so I agree with you on the political divide. But at the end of the day, I agree with you with the special interest. I'll give you a perfect example. George Soros bought up over 200 radio stations in 2024. That needs to not happen.
Yeah.
I wonder why he bought up over 200 radio stations in 2024.
Right. Why Jeff Bezos buy the Washington Post? Why is TikTok
Correct.
being issued to certain people? Right. Exactly. Well, I have a question for you though.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
Clinton had an opportunity to do what he did because the Fairness Doctrine. I think maybe you have a different perspective. The Fairness Doctrine was abolished when was it 1987? I think it was. So
That would be under Reagan.
yeah, 1987 under Reagan. So it wasn't fully like the rise of all this unregulated speech or media, unregulated media was just getting started in the 90s, right? Rush Limbaugh and others. So,
Well, it's CNN, Ted Turner with the 24-hour news networks. Ted Turner started this.
right. Because then after Ted Turner, you had to have an opposite reaction, right? Equal opposite
was
reaction,
Fox
which is Fox News. Right.
With Robert Murdoch. Correct.
Right. So I'd argue the narrative certainly plays a part, or the media plays a part in during the 90s. It wasn't enough time. Like the rise of social media, the rise of media being biased, completely biased, because it's now unregulated from the Fairness Doctrine, right? Now has allowed us to get to a place where we are over the last 20 years, 25
I
years.
agree. And you got to remember, too, it wasn't just Reagan. I believe Democrats controlled the Senate at the time under Reagan. It wasn't It wasn't a full Republican Congress under Reagan. It was split most of his presidency. And I love how we're like being fair down the middle and not saying, oh, but Republicans or but Democrats. Because if you really want to look at what's going on, go look at who controlled Congress during all these presidencies. That'll give you a better idea of what's going on than, oh, this president or this president. Go look under the hood. Go look who
Yep.
controlled the House and the Senate at the time.
Well, sometimes it's been judicial stuff as well. Like, so when you look at the obviously deregulation of campaign finance, right? That happened under both Republican and Democrat administrations.
Right.
There was cases and law that's happened since the 80s, throughout the 90s, then Bush, and then obviously Citizens United, which happened to be under Obama, but had nothing to do with Obama. So these things have happened under both administrations. And that's what people need to realize, because if you realize, hey, it's not, they've all done it. And it's not that they all have done it because of the nefarious reason they all did it was the money behind the scenes. It was the money convincing those legislatures, those court systems, those presidents to say, we can remove this regulation because it's not important.
Right. Just with what the Republicans did with Mitch McConnell filibustering in 2015. Look what Democrats did with Bernie Sanders and coming out with these super delegates to screw him over.
Right, 2016.
It was good. Yeah. So it's just like at one point, our best shot for my problem with the independent libertarian mindset, though, is I liken a lot of libertarians to hippies. They say a lot of stuff, but they don't actually do anything.
Well, what I like to say about that libertarians, I give them a lot of grief because it's bullshit. It's a philosophy and a theory. It's not a practical way of governance.
Yeah, it's not. And our best shot we had was Ross Perot, 1992. What happened? He took 20% of the Republican vote and allowed Clinton to steamroll Bush.
So you must be new to my channel, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. 19% of the vote, right? And he was polling at 39% before he pulled out of the election. I use that reference often. See, obviously, you have a lot of historical knowledge as well. That's what I like to use as my reference, that for people that are watching that may not have been there at that time, to realize not that it was close to happening, but what Ross Perot did in the Reform Party, because he already showed at that time there was a tremendous amount of division in our political system and our society as a general. And he showed that while it wasn't necessarily close to happening, he showed that it could have happened if he didn't pull out of in the summer. He was beating obviously both Clinton and Bush, and it showed that there was a real possibility that a third party or other movement had a viable chance to win.
I think I think TK, it would be interesting to see if we could, or you or I or whomever, like if we're going to be if we're going to be players in this. I mean, we are the masters of our own sail. We could potentially use our own discernment and your knowledge and everyone else's knowledge that pops in here to actually start moving and shepherding people in the right directions with the choices that they make, so that we can get the outcomes that you're interested in. And I think it's time to start playing ball. Like, let's get up to bat and start picking who would be the right person, who would not be the right person in states and in different elections.
I think that will happen just out of its normal organic flow. Like you reach 100,000 people or 1 million people. I get people DMing me every day, literally every day,
Yeah.
saying, "How can I help?"
Right.
And I don't know yet, because I need a lot of help. We need a lot of help to do this, but it will come over time, because a lot of people are well-meaning, but they may not have the skills or the reach, or right. So it'll be a natural progression that people will reach out. Some might be eventually political leaders that want to run for office, because I've put that out there in the past, and people are like, I would love to be in politics or be a civic servant if this thing could happen. But that I think that all comes with just time, and some organization ends up, or leadership forming eventually. But it may not be me. Maybe someone else comes along on YouTube or TikTok that gets 1 million followers, that may start off from a higher starting point already. Maybe they're starting off on first or second base, that are preaching the same thing, and they end up getting more people to resonate behind. That's fine. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's whoever is able to motivate people to unify behind a certain message. That's what's going to
Yeah.
win.
I think it'd be important though to set up some sort of blueprint. I mean, in your plan, maybe there would be like an offshoot of the plan that says, like, if there's a person that's getting money from this organization or helping people discern or decide based on that information who they should pick to start pushing the needle in the direction that you want it to be
Right.
pushed.
I actually have something in the plan that's very vague in step 2, that if we need money, I have thoughts on how we can do that with a direct platform that we would own and control. But again,
Sure.
it's a little early for that. So I actually do have a few people waiting, quite a few people, 3 people waiting. So I'm going to try and do 2 minutes each. What do we have here? Fight for Decency. Love the username. Welcome, Fight for Decency.
Hi, PK, can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. How are you today?
Great, I'm good. I'm good. You got some people helping you out here today, right? In other words, there's a few people, what do you call them? People that help you out in the channel right now that are listening.
Moderators?
The reason why, yeah, moderators, there you go, 1 or 2, right? The reason why I ask is I'm going to ask them to go to my webpage, fightfordecency.com, and pay particular attention to the bottom part of the webpage called Logic. So let's compare strategies. TK, I'm right with you. I'm right with you. I mean, agree with you 100%, but I have a different approach. Okay, so let's compare strategies. So I'm doing the same thing you are.
We lost you, Fight for Decency.
Okay, how about that? Am
All
I
right,
back?
you're back. Yeah, just try. Yeah,
Okay.
try and nail it down in a couple minutes.
All right, in a couple of minutes. Okay, so you have to have power. You said it yourself. You recognize it, as I recognize that you cannot affect change without power. That protests are not going to do it. So this is my idea of power. I'm a truck driver. And I know that power is when trucks stop, right? When trucks stop. So this is my idea. I argue that unless you threaten the what I call the unholy trinity, bankers, corporations, and oligarchs, with the fact that we will not pay, not because we will not pay for our rent or our mortgage for a period of 2 months, unless you give us what I am advocating for is the Lawrence Lessig's Citizens Equality Act of 2017. So here's in a nutshell, because I got 2 minutes. I'm arguing that when we say that we are going to ask the truck drivers to shut the country down, not for a week until you give us what we want, not for a month, but for a whole 2 month, 2 months. Now, if you watch and read my logic, you'll see why it has to be 2 months. By design, we are in debt, financial debt. Now, what is the unholy trinity to do when a whole nation gets behind the two things: number one, free and fair elections, and number two, a mere vote on universal health care? Unless you give me those two things, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to shut the whole country down for 2 whole months. Now that puts me 2 months behind on my rent and my mortgage. And not only that, and this is the key. This is the key. The key is that the biggest weapon we as the working class have is time. Time is our biggest weapon. So what are we going to do with 2 months sitting at home, not able to work? Some by choice and others by design, because we chose to. So okay, so
Okay, no, I gotta
oh,
I want to synthesize it a little bit because
oh,
Polaris is a friend of the show as well, and he's leaving some good comments. So let me give you a point
right.
of view. I am all for whatever someone could do, whether it's protesting, having millions of people march on Washington, everyday protests. If you can manifest, some people want to call it a blackout, where you stop shopping for X amount of days, and you're advocating for truckers to go on strike. All of it has merit. The problem I see with it is you'll never be able, the real power is having people that were dedicated, like you said, to doing it. So that would mean you would have to have an organization or have enough leadership to get all those truckers, the vast majority of those truckers, to agree with you, right? That's the real power. So all these things have potential merit to influence change, but it doesn't end up fixing the root cause of the problem, unless it's removing the money out of politics. But again, those things take more time. So I'm all
And
for what you say,
uh,
but you have to be creating a movement behind it.
I'm arguing that we can do it within 2 years. And the movement is very much similar to yours about using social media and walking and canvassing. So here's the thing. When you talk about the core problem, the core root, now understand, and I differ with you in a little bit. The argument, what I'm trying to tell people is that you have to know four things in order to overcome. Number one, I disagree slightly with your assertion that the core problem is, and this is my understanding of the core problem. That is the word and the ideology neoliberalism. It is neoliberalism that put us in where we're at right now. And it is modern monetary theory and understanding of how modern money works that'll get us out of this situation. And it'll only be, as you and I agree, and most everybody, like you say, is the only way forward is to take the first step in getting our country back. So you're right when you say the core problems, but it is neoliberalism.
So
And
you're
once
talking
we
about you don't like globalism, you don't like free trade. Where are you going with that?
no, okay, neoliberalism is this economic ideology that started in the late 70s, early 80s with Thatcher in UK and Reagan in the United States, that says this: that not laissez-faire, but we're going to use the power of corporations and money to influence and take over and capture a government, so that they will pass laws to enable businesses to deregulate the whole economy. It also seeks to privatize all that exists. It wants to what do you call that word, make money out of everything that exists. And also, at the end of this all, it says that if you find yourself faltering, if you find yourself not making ends meet at the end of the day, it is entirely your fault. And it says that inequality is okay. That's what neoliberalism is. And
Okay.
as Bill Mitchell would say, Well, as Bill Mitchell would say in his speech on modern monetary theory in the Helsinki conference, it's not good enough just to tell people, hey, look, understand what really happened and what has been happening for 45 years. The name is neoliberalism. You got to give them something to look forward to. And that's where I highly recommend people go to Steve Grumbein's channel, Real Progressives, where he educates the people on how modern money works and how it is that we, through fiscal policy, could actually have those things
Okay.
that you're talking about.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks for your points of view. You have your views. I think you synthesize them down to something that the masses
Well,
could
okay.
absorb. All right. And then
Right. So fightfordecency.com.
all right. I don't mind people coming on doing some promotion, but the constant promotion, synthesize the message, I think. What do you think, Mr. Global? We have a few guests waiting, but go ahead. What are your thoughts there?
It has to be, what did you say, 70 million, 50 million?
Yeah.
If we're gonna do something, we all have to do it at the same time, the exact same time.
And it has to be
You
simple.
have to make a pledge, has to be simple, and everybody has to do it at the exact same time, and everybody has to commit. Nobody can back out, nobody can chicken out. Like, we have to just do it. I don't even think it matters what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, because we're not going to have all the answers in place. The fear that I have, though, is when you do something like that, there still has to be head honcho, the person that's pulling, is the face of whatever it is.
Yeah, you can blame all kinds of little things here and there. At the end of the day, I just want representation to be for the people, by the people. Like, it's really simple. Like, that's the message. Like, for people, we have a new guest waiting, but I don't want to tell our representatives exactly what to do, what they should believe in, any of that stuff. All they want is money out of the political system, and you vote for people that represent their constituents, and their constituents first and foremost. Every single other issue gets taken care of by itself. Like, it's not that hard.
It's simple.
It's
very
simple.
simple.
And Ben, what's up, man?
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you? What generation and where do you sit on the political
doing
spectrum?
good. Okay, I consider myself a conservative. I am 63 years old and I'm a veteran of the United States Army.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your service. And what do you think about the
Okay.
division in America, and can we ever become united again?
Well, I'm going to try to keep it short because I know you said 2 minutes and all that. But I want to ask you a question, and then I'll listen to your answer, and then hopefully I can comment on that. Okay, when I found your channel a few minutes ago, you were talking about people that are labeled as being MAGA. Now, my question that I've never understood, or even where it really came from, is okay, I'm a Republican. I consider myself conservative, especially when it comes to fiscal policies and money and the military. Okay, what is the difference between a conservative and a MAGA? Please tell me, because I would love to know.
This is real easy. Conservatives have certain values and beliefs. They believe in family values. They believe in fiscal conservativity. They believe in values first and foremost. If you wear the MAGA hat and you pledge your allegiance basically to Donald Trump and you are MAGA, you've basically said, I don't care about values. I only care about the person. That I believe I will support that person no matter what they do, even if it goes against my values. That's the difference.
Okay, well, that makes sense. And it's funny, you mentioned the MAGA hat. I remember when Obama was president, and I live an hour outside of Washington, D.C., and I do business a lot in the D.C. area. And especially when I went down to places, if you know where I'm talking, Montgomery County, Fairfax County, in the suburban DC area, I saw people walking around with Obama baseball hats, and no one ever said a word about it. So what would you call those people? Were they just loyal to Obama no matter what he did? Would it be the same? Would it be the same thing?
Well, it could have been the same thing. It wasn't nearly as rampant, right? And but I'm against people I would never put a bumper sticker on my car in the 70s or 80s. I would never put any individual politician on any part of my clothing or on a piece of jewelry or anything. So I think because once you go down that route, you start believing or putting all your faith behind the person. So I would say to those people, they shouldn't do that, but it wasn't nearly as rampant. There wasn't sort of like a cult-like following, and he was promoting hope. But again, I agree. I wouldn't have worn an Obama shirt. No way.
It's the blind following. It's
Yeah,
just
I
this
agree
like
with you too.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're not going to get me to hear me defending liberal extremist actions on the liberal side or left side either, or even things that are even getting close to that. Because I'm saying we're the United States of America. If you want to put a flag in your car, that flag, okay, I'm against over nationalism or too much patriotism. But if that flag starts to represent a person like Trump, then hell no. That's the United States of America. I would take an oath to the U.S. Constitution because that's based on law and order and values. And it has nothing to do with people. I don't care about the people. I just want the people in our government to respect that law of the land and the American values. And if they do that, no matter whether they're right or left, they'll be doing the right thing for its people. But once you start following a person, absolutely not. Veto.
Polaris is right.
Well, I totally agree with you, sir. I totally agree with that. I do not have a MAGA hat. I
You
do
see that
have a
because
hat
you
that
have
says
value. You
America
most likely have
Strong on
values,
it,
and you didn't.
and I kind of
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. And if anyone ever says anything to me about it, I say, you know what? This is my politically neutral, piss nobody off hat. And anyone I've ever said that to, they kind of laugh and they go, yep, they get it. They know what I'm saying. And I agree with you on the bumper stickers and yard signs. If you would see my neighborhood back during the last election, you had Trump signs in people's front yards. You had Harris signs in people's front yards. There's a house at one time in my neighborhood had a big banner across the front of the house that said Black Lives Matter. And what I really see the difference between, say, the 80s, 90s, into the early 2000s is I think what has caused a lot of this is the 24-hour news, but more importantly, unfortunately to say, because we're on it right now, social media. Because people take social media and they get obsessed with it. And the old saying, everybody's a tough guy behind the keyboard. And people say stuff that they wouldn't normally walk out the door and walk out in public and say to anybody
Right.
because they know what would happen. There is a limit to, as you say, all freedoms have their limits. And there's certain things you just don't go out and say.
Yeah,
Would you agree?
when you follow somebody like Trump, whether you do or you don't, you have to be able to be critical of that individual. If you stop being critical and you're just blindly following somebody, that's a problem.
It's called blind loyalty, and that's absurd, right?
It
But
goes both ways. It's not just right, it's
Yeah,
left
I
too.
agree. Yeah, before I go, I would like to just tell you the experience I had in the Army real quick. I was a member of the United States Army Band. I played for George Bush I's inauguration. And I'm telling you this because when you're in a position like that, when you pledge to the United States of America and to obey the orders of the commander in chief, it's the office. It deserves respect. Yes, you don't have to personally agree with it, but you should respect it. And that respect, I don't care whether it was Trump, Biden, Obama, whoever, the lack of respect that we're showing today, and you see it, my wife is a middle school band director. She sees it in schools. These kids, what sixth graders will tell a teacher to go F themselves. There's no consequence. The respect is gone. And if we don't do something about it, I hate to see where my sons and my grandchildren's future lies in this country 50 years from now. I won't be here to see it,
right.
but I am deeply concerned about it.
Thanks for your points of
Would you
view.
agree with me?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. No. I'm not going to doubt any of that. That's all
We agree.
true. We agree. Thank you. All right, I wanted to move on to the next guest, but
All right.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Hey,
Thanks
good
for
talking
joining.
to you guys, and yep. Have a great day.
You too.
All right, something I just want to say about his military as we invite the next guest in. And Polaris, thanks for the awesome. We got Retro Historian coming back on, and then Appalachian, you're up after that. And then Rick from Earth. Interesting. Something I want to quickly say as our historian friend comes back on is the military. You've had two generals, the South American Theater General and the Latin American or the Central American General, both resigned because of what's happening against the law in Venezuela with targeting these boats. So you've had two generals because they swore an oath to the Constitution, and that in the military, if you swear an oath that you will not do anything illegal, even if you're told to do something illegal by your political leaders. And they both resigned based on that fact because they couldn't carry out their missions because they were illegal. That just goes to show that this administration currently is not acting within the laws of the land, meaning the Constitution. And these two leaders of very high stature in the military had to resign or take themselves out of it because otherwise they might be persecuted in the future. And of course, they're not going to dishonor their oath and their service because military men of that caliber are certainly swore an oath to the Constitution and they take it very seriously.
As they should.
As they should.
Well, I mean, and you really can't, it's really unfortunate for them, right? That they did that. But they're just following orders. As individuals, those people are the people that resign.
But they took
just
an oath in the
following
military
order.
that even if an order is illegal, they are not to follow it. And even at the infantry level, if you are given an order that's against the law, you are not supposed to follow that order.
Sure.
Appalachian.
What's up, brother?
How you doing, man? Generation?
This morning. Oh, I'm a Generation X, bro.
Awesome.
I was trying to catch you this morning, but you jumped off as soon as I came in the room. You were on like early this morning, or maybe late last night.
No, that wasn't me. I wasn't on this morning or last night. I was on Sunday.
Oh, no? Oh, okay. Maybe it was Sunday.
But thanks for finding me. Maybe there's an imposter out there.
Yeah, so I'm just going to run through it because everybody's like bumping your damn 2 minutes. But anyway, I feel it's a far left, far right. That's what's causing the problem with your the middle. Your middle left, your middle right. I believe it comes from the politicians because they're always looking for more voters and more voters. They already got the center, so they went way out to the left and way out to the right to get more voters. The other thing, the issue is at the state and federal legislative level. I feel like a lot of Americans vote these people in, and then they never interact with them after that, and then they just sit here and I'm trying not to cuss, man. They cry about it. You know what I'm saying? Oh well, they're this country's going all to hell, or this state's went all to hell, and it's like, dude, when was the last time you even talked to your congressman at the state level or at the federal level? And then. Just one more last thing, and I'll jump off here, man. I'm center right. The only reason I'm more on the right side is I hate the government. My granddaddy hated the government. We don't like government in our life. But with the free medical, I was in the Army for 22 years, man. I was on welfare growing up before that, or Medicaid before that. And the only thing I don't like is when the government is in charge of something, they screw it up. And what I mean by is that if you got insurance, right, regular insurance, and you go in and your knee looks like it's got a watermelon on it, the doctor will send you straight to ortho to see what's going on. MRI, all that stuff. In the Army or on the government side, they make the doctors jump through certain things in order for them to pay for it. Like you got to go to physical therapy. Physical therapy says it can't be fixed, and you come back. Well, first it's an X-ray, then it's physical therapy, then you come back, and then the doctor could say, now I need an MRI. Then you get an MRI, then you come back to your doctor, your PCM, and then the doctor can now sign you up for ortho. But you're talking 6 to 8 months can go by while you got a blown out knee. That's all I'm saying. The government screws up everything they touch.
Well, listen.
And I would just hate for them to. One last thing on the same subject. England. Did you ever follow that England's like unalive 4 babies because they were on like life support and everything, and deemed that they would never be off life support? Italy went and gave one of them, or I think it's 2 now. They gave them honorary citizenship so that they could get them into Italy and they would take care of them. But the courts deemed it too expensive and pulled the plug. I just don't agree with that.
I
You
haven't
get
heard
what I'm
that
saying?
story
That's how
personally.
Yeah. Appalachian, let me just leave you with this. I understand there's a certain swath of Americans, and I used to be with them since your birth. I'm sure that you've heard phrases like government is the problem, not the solution. I'm sure that you've witnessed extreme government inefficiency. And
Oh, yes, sir.
no doubt about it. I'm not arguing those facts, but I also hope that you realize no matter how right or left someone is, government is the only mechanism that we have to protect society. And it comes with bureaucracy, no doubt about it. And it comes with some inefficiencies. And we shouldn't accept those either. We should always try to make them more efficient. But government is your means to have some protection on society. So government
Oh, I've got it.
government is the
I agree
only
with
solution to these
I
problems.
agree with you, but like,
Yeah, but the
here's
more you
another
say,
issue is
but,
I just don't think Nancy Pelosi has anything to do with me. She was born in like 1980
but she
or
doesn't
18.
represent
I
you
mean,
either. She represents California, and that
I
she
know,
doesn't.
I understand that, but I'm saying the age. I'm just using her as an example. I'm
Oh yeah,
talking about
she
the
should have been
age,
off out.
the Maxine Waters. What's his name from Kentucky? The one that's he's on Paul's right now. What's his name? The Republican.
Kentucky, that'd be Kennedy, right?
Is it Kennedy or Mitch McConnell? One of them.
McConnell.
They're like walking around like a zombie right now.
Right. That's why,
Yeah.
you know, Appalachian, I have a 28th and the 29th Amendment suggestion. One is to get rid of all special interest money out of the political system. And the 29th Amendment is for strict term limits and replacing all career politicians from both parties. So those things would cure everything that you're talking about. So
All right, bro. I'm going to get off here. I'm going to stay in your thing, but
awesome.
if you
Hey, I
want to
appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Pass the ball to somebody else.
Thanks for joining. Appreciate you being here.
Later, brother.
Well, welcome, Polaris.
Hey, what's up, guys? Long time no speak.
Yeah, man. Hopefully you are on a live band, on a band.
Yeah, I
He's
got
out
this
of TikTok jail.
ankle monitor on and a shot collar, so if I seem a little tame, you know why.
You know, they gave me the button for your shock collar, so just be careful.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. Who knows? But enjoying the live. It looks like you got a good crowd in here today. So props for that.
Thank
Hey,
you.
on that
I always
topic,
enjoy tuning in.
everybody that's here, let's tap the screen. Let's get up the likes.
Yeah, I'll start tapping while I talk. Start tapping while we yap, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the audience has been growing. I had a last video that did really, really well talking about the depth and the nuances of the special interest in money corrupting us, which brought in an extra 6,000 followers, which was really cool. So, and it seems to be impacting the lives as well, which is awesome, right? That's the whole goal of playing this game. It's not really a game, but you have to grow your audience, right?
Yeah, consistency. And you guys are by far the most consistent people that I follow. I really appreciate what you guys do on a daily basis. Just talking solutions. I think that's what attracts me most to this channel in particular is, you always try to keep it action oriented and share ideas. So appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Yeah, and I appreciate that too, and saying that. And remember, like, as I say to everybody, you don't have to agree with, like, I'm not trying to get people to agree with every single position I have on a specific issue. That's not my point. We do talk about some issues. I do have personal perspectives, but it's about none of that. It's about just having representation, ideally, which I know you are an advocate as well. You think about it maybe a little bit more, a little differently, but at the end of the day, if we truly had representation for the people, by the people, then all the other issues cure themselves.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one thing I wanted to bring to the table is this idea of uniting under a common cause, right? I think Mr. Global mentioned it doesn't matter what we do, but we've all got to do it at the same time, right? And so the most popular organization I've come across in, starting this political journey of my own, I just sent 322 likes. Who can compete with that? Anyway, it's called Blackout the System. And it's a real simple message, basically, that they're going to organize general strikes or boycotts on specific dates. And they've got a decent following. I'm not sure, but the guy, the advocate that I follow has, I think, 500,000 followers. and he's basically going live pretty much every day, sharing this message of greed is the disease and community is the solution, which resonates with me a lot. And their whole MO is basically to organize these blackouts, they call it, in order to send like a bat signal, right? That, hey, we're active, we're growing the community, here's what we're doing. And then once they reach their critical threshold, whatever amount of people, then they can organize, more serious action. So have you ever thought about maybe, partnering with an organization like that just to unify under a common cause? Because the more involved I become with politics, the more I'm finding all of these different factions, right?
Right.
People who share similar ideas, like a Fight for Decency came up and said, oh, well, I think the problem's this. Here's how I'm doing it. Let's compare. And that's fine. I think everybody should, think critically and decide what approach they can personally take. But at the same time, we do need to think about how we unify. And so I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, yeah, I think it's a really good point. I've thought about this a lot, even before starting this channel and having my thoughts on the matter. Here's the issue, I think the ultimate issue you have. I was going to originally call my channel Poke America, sort of like an organization, Poke America. And just like you have Blackout the System, and then you have all these other things. And just like the Convention of States, which is also, it's in the Constitution, and it's also an organization, the Convention of States. So you have, like you said, you have all, and there's many, many more, right? There's so many different organizations. And let's say even take last weekend's No Kings protest. What I don't like about these early stage organizations is sort of putting the cart before the horse. And I'll use the No Kings movement as the example. It's organized by a bunch of different progressive organizations that have no face and have no name. Not entirely, but they have no face and name. There's no one person. So it seems like this very liberal, and they're a progressive liberal organization. And that's fine. You should protest if that's what you believe in. And we should have no kings. We should not have authoritarianship. I'm absolutely. What I don't like about these groups is that they're faceless, and they are always asking for money. And then they hand out the card, their cards and the things that you're supposed to hold up. And it's just a movement based on money and influence coming from various factions of the left. And the problem with that is you don't get any of the right to join on because it becomes highly political right from the get-go. And it's not about people first, and you don't even have a face to that organization. And that's what I don't like about any of these types of things is human nature is just to follow a leader. And we could have 1,000 people promoting the same thing like I am doing here and like you would do or Mr. Global would do and other people would do on TikTok here or on YouTube. Eventually, someone is going to be the face of the organization. And that person's integrity, what they stand for, putting themselves out there, that's what's going to truly resonate with a wider swath of people other than just one side or the other. And I think that's the reality of these types of things is that I would never support an individual organization because I don't want to get pigeonholed to something they believe that I may not believe in. I think it comes from
tarnish how you look. They can tarnish your reputation because then it's not controlled. There's no clear path. It just runs unfettered, similar to like the
right.
corporate corruption that we currently have.
So whether you like MAGA, like Trump is MAGA, right? Or ideally started MAGA. And Trump is the face of MAGA. No different than if Abraham Lincoln was the face of obviously abolishing slavery. And it was his will, his desires, and people able to following him that made it happen. And JFK, having the nuclear standoff with Russia or Soviet Union, that was him doing that because he was president. This is just a fact of humanity that we tend to want to follow people and their ideas and their integrity. And that's why I wouldn't necessarily want to be any part of organization unless that organization had so much influence by that time and it was cross parties, right? It was uniting people from across the entire spectrum because if it's perceived, and perception is reality, it's not just an expression, right? If it's perceived to be left-leaning or right-leaning, then you're going to just create more division and not create unity. So all those things, that's why I view there's a problem with, I understand the factions, but I don't think just bringing a bunch of factions together actually helps at all.
Yeah. So have you looked into the one I mentioned at all?
Yeah, it's on.
Again, I'm
I've
not
I've seen it
promoting
before.
anything.
I've seen it before, and I have it on the website right now.
Okay. Just curious because from what I've heard, it seems very unaffiliated to either political party. Maybe I haven't done enough research, but that's what I've seen so far.
I haven't done it either, so
What about you?
I have seen that individual that talks about black out the system, but like you, I haven't gone deep like I have with the Convention of States and with the No Kings movement. I actually can, those I've gone deeper with, but the black out the system I haven't, just because they haven't been quite big enough for me to see it yet.
Are they?
So I
Do they
actually,
talk about the consequences, Polaris,
the consequences of what?
of blacking out a system? Do they go into how it
Yeah.
could be
So
negatively impacting, or
basically, their goal is not to, because I'm of the understanding that these corporate superpowers can outlast all of us. Even if we took Fight for Decency's advice and we struggled for 2 months without paying anything, they'd probably just kick us out on our butts and take our homes. And at the end of the day, the banks can afford to do that. We can't, right? And so that's where this whole idea of solidarity comes in. Well, they can't kick us all out, you know. But I don't think they're trying to really, stick it to the man, so to speak. What they really want to do again is just create enough momentum that people catch wind of a growing organization and want to get involved. I actually I align with that a lot more than what's happening with these No King protests. Which there was actually one in a local town that I live near, and I was just taking my children to the park that day and happened to pass the courthouse, and there was a decent amount of people out there. And so I figured, what, I'll park on Main Street and I'll walk down the block and just kind of get a feel for the crowd. And overwhelmingly protesting against the president, of course. A few people supporting the president, very, few, far between. And a lot of people honking, going by, showing their support. So for the most part, I'd say they accomplished their goal of, I guess, getting attention. But I've always had this resentment towards organized protest, right? That feel more like a parade than a solution. And so I figured, what? I'll ask a few people. I'm not reading any signs. I'm not, gonna join the chants. Let me just ask what brings them out, and hear, a little bit from my neighbors and the immediate community. And for the most part, people were worried about the state of the country. Few were advocating for specific causes like protecting our libraries and that sort of thing. But then I sort of made this proposition that, since this is a No Kings protest, I asked a lot of people if they felt this two-party system was actually moving us closer to authoritarianism. And for the most part, everybody agreed that, the left and the right are two wings of the same bird, and something's got to give, right? And so
yeah,
I do believe in this unifying factor. And for me, I would say it has to be economic, right? There's just the cost of living, the disparity of wealth. And I agree that, human nature is to follow a leader. I just, I would approach it from the bottom up because, again, just going back to representation, right? Um, your community really should be like local tribes, right? There's that Dunbar's number. We can only really meaningfully know 150 people. And it feels like most, most of us in modern times are following more celebrities than our own family and friends, right? We fill our heads with this nonsense of the latest news and the memes and all of these things, like these people actually have influence over our daily lives. And I'm not saying that, leadership doesn't matter from the top, but I think it has to start from the bottom. And if we could just get involved locally, get to know our neighbors, formulate small coalitions, even like just the three of us here, we have regular conversations. If we could do that in waking life, with a few neighbors and start to tackle issues in our community, I think that's where, you know, we could really plant these seeds and actually see the trees growing around us. You know, maybe we won't be able to sit under the shade, right? But at least where we are, we can make an impact and hopefully start to spread the message in different areas.
I'm never opposed to that. Like, you know, whether you take a bottom up approach or top down approach, I can't say what's right or wrong. I don't know. I have thoughts on it because let's say we had a caller the other day that she was very involved in her local politics in California, in a small town in California. And then these people that followed the Christian Nationals basically, and I think it was a private equity firm, ended up buying a lot of real estate in her town. And these Christian Nationals came onto the school board and onto the city council and so forth. And while she was trying to do grassroots stuff for her community, it was basically just supplanted by these national interests. So the power of some of these, in her case, I think it was private equity groups and these Christian Nationals that ended up infiltrating her local community, basically took her out, right? Basically, there was no, they overran her community. So it shows how these national forces, whether it's the corporate dictators or the Christian Nationals or any specific corporation that might be trying to influence your local community, has so much power that can overrun whatever you might be trying to do locally.
Power is money and time. They have the money and they have the time, and we don't.
Yeah.
We're too busy trying to pay our bills.
And even if it was like black out the system or whatever it is, at the end of the day, you hope that some awesome leader steps up. Or let's say, I always use the example, Polaris, is this one. If there was a incredible popular YouTuber, let's say it was Mr. Beast. If he was really interested in politics and he's really well liked in his political positions, he has the influence to start off in a movement basically on second or third base. And when you have that kind of momentum and leverage, then it's so much easier to attract everybody else. And then you can, whether it's the blackout system or any other thing, you have more likely that you're not going to make it to home base. So without relevancy being on that, I think it's hard to do.
The relevancy is obviously a big thing, but like I know you bring up Mr. Beast a lot. There is scandals behind Mr. Beast. There's
He's
money
a terrible
scandals.
example. He just hasn't
I
had a
know,
lot of
and I'm
people.
not. No, I understand. It has to be somebody that's already involved in stuff like this, because you know you can't have some random, I don't know, like there's podcasters and they're really young. I forget
Well,
what
let's
they're.
take. What if you took Charlie Kirk or on the right in the past, or Ben Shapiro or Jordan Peterson, whoever it might be, or you took like David Pakman on the left. The problem is that with them, they're involved already, but they are involved preaching to their existing choirs, so they have no credibility, right? But if it was someone like that was more in the middle, and over time was able to get that audience, they would more likely get to home base because they would be able to bring people together from both sides. And like in today's environment, it's just hard to see. You know, I believe personally that yes, in the next election, I sure hope the left wins. And because it's a stay of execution for democracy and freedom. So I am a staunch independent, and I am not for being liberal or being too far progressive. I am for human rights and other things, but I also have to respect the other half of the country that doesn't want to move things too quickly. And that the centrist view ultimately or ideally is the right view to take or approach to take. And that's sort of, you know, my feelings on that matter is that you can't have someone that starts too far to the left or too far to the right, because they'll never be able to unite the other half of the country. And unless you do that, you're just swinging the pendulum back and forth, and you're actually not really accomplishing much.
Well, I think the movement starts with someone who can basically demolish or disassemble each side and create a new version of reality that's based in reality.
Right.
You
Just
know, like,
if you always bring it back to values, like, you know, whether it's human rights or freedom and liberty and law and order, it's got to be something based on common values instead of talking about a specific issue. And in my case, or what we're trying to do, is because values tend to be boring to some degree. They don't really resonate that hard. I think it's like the left wants to go really, this next election seems to be promoting human rights. And I agree. I think it's great. That's what there's no compromising on human rights. However, it's just not resonating. I don't think it's going to resonate with the right enough. But I think the problem with money in politics and all of us being fully, or our representation being taken over by greed, does resonate with all of us. And that's why I think that issue ultimately becomes more powerful, because it ends up being a uniting message versus, and I know human rights should be a uniting message, but it's not. Which is sickening that it's not, but you're not going to move a lot of people on the right behind a movement just based on human values. You should, but you won't. That's my opinion anyway. I could be wrong, and I hope I am wrong.
How about we abide by the Constitution? Yeah, I mean
That's it.
pretty obvious. Yeah, that was what is that? Ken Graham 7 said
I'm not familiar.
in the comments.
Oh, okay.
Someone commented. I was just reading a comment.
Well, Polaris, let me see if there's anybody else in the wings. Shadowcat. Shadowcat, you've been waiting a long time. Thank you for your patience. Polaris, you're welcome to stay. You could drop out anytime, or you're welcome to stay. I'm going to invite another guest as well.
Yeah, I'll hang out in the comments. If I got something to add, I'll just request back up. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. See ya. Hi, Shadowcat.
Hi. Thanks for letting me up.
Thanks for your patience. I apologize. Polaris is a regular on the show, and sometimes we go a little bit too long.
Oh, no. I know. I've seen him before. I've been watching for a while now. I've got time on my hands. Don't even worry about it.
Okay, awesome.
The reason I came up is because we were talking about the military a little bit earlier, and I think you had some good points about the unlawful orders and stuff like that. So I am a short story. I'm medically retired from the military, so I've seen things going on with the military, and the big issue is that if these generals give up their positions, then they're leaving the door open for
loyalists,
people to come in who aren't going to question and who are just going to do the thing. The other problem is that our junior guys, the ones who are actually like pushing the button, as I saw someone say in the comments, is that they don't have the option to go on the news and say, I did this because it's not right. They're just going to get thrown in the brig. And they're not going to get any fair shot at, them not being in trouble. Their lives are going to be destroyed. And that's the big problem. And then the other thing is the secretaries that are being appointed right now are not qualified to do their jobs. RFK Jr. is very concerning to me. I have a master's degree in public health. So the things that are happening with the lack of evidence is very concerning to me, because I'm worried about people being hurt because of those things. And the Pete Hegsbreth situation, he's just too froggy, in my opinion. He's just ready to get out there and just do too much stuff. But the other thing I wanted to come up and ask about was, I've seen people talk about this on both sides with the with all the MAGA debates and the liberal panels and all the panels I've been watching, is the idea of term limits. I've seen both sides talk about that and be in favor of that. And so I was just wondering what your thoughts were about that topic.
Yeah, so if you have this is right in the sweet spot, right, Mr. Global?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is always promote. There's a lot of issues we could tackle. There's a lot of things we can talk about, but what I try and always bring it back to is just two issues. The most prominent issue is that we need a 28th Amendment that makes sure that all elections are publicly funded and removing money out of politics, right? So that's the core one. But closely following that is the 29th Amendment, where being a politician cannot be a career, that it needs to be a temporary civic service, and that means term limits. So those are the two, the 28th and 29th Amendment. Like, we could try and repeal Citizens United, but that's just a law, could get overturned again. So I don't think just removing money out of politics by overturning Citizens United really does much. It doesn't do enough. So that's why it needs to be a 28th Amendment, actually in addition to the Constitution. And the same thing for the 29th Amendment, which was sort of an oversight by the Founding Fathers, because they knew that being a politician, it was never supposed to be a career. And yet we have them as career politicians. And other than the presidency, which is only, 22nd Amendment is supposed to just be 2 terms. We should have the same thing for all politicians. So those are the 2 things that this platform on this channel that I always try and preach, because I think, like you said, those are the 2 issues that resonate with about 90% of all Americans, no matter where you come from.
I
Yeah,
think a big
I
one now
agree.
too is this religion though too. The religion between the separation between church and state.
But I think that one gets
The
cured. I think that one gets cured with the 28th.
you think? Okay.
I hope so, because it's in the Constitution. It's supposed to be a secular document. So if the people that are representing the people are actually following the laws of the land, there should be no laws that are created based on religion, which is not what those people
And
want
you,
right now.
I do somewhat agree with that because I know that some of the, the big churches and stuff, they do have a lot of money that they don't pay taxes on, but they can still turn around and fund somebody's campaign. So I can see that being true as solving that issue.
Right. Take out the money, you
But
take
yeah,
out their influence as well. Not all of their influence. You're not trying to take out all religious influence. Religion should be treated just like a corporation. Corporations should have influence in its society. So should religion. It just doesn't mean laws should be created based on religion and rules.
yeah, I did see someone talking about, with the lobbying and stuff about like PACs and things like that for like smaller organizations, like nonprofits and things. So you wouldn't be in favor of that either.
Not if you could pay direct. See, if the basic definition of bribery is if I give you money and I expect a favor in return, that's bribery and that's fraud. So no matter how you can raise money to do things, but if you give money to a politician to help them get elected, to help them buy a house, to give them gifts, whatever it may be, if a politician uses that information or that money, that's bribery, right? And I think that should be certainly in the 28th Amendment that's illegal. And there should be criminal penalties for that.
No, I totally agree with that. I just saw it as an argument on somebody's panel that they were saying that smaller organizations should be able to do that in order to get some visibility, I guess. But I completely agree. I don't think it
Well,
should be allowed to
nothing's
cover
perfect,
anything.
right? You can even take term limits. Let's go back to that one. Term limits have their own flaws. What if you have an awesome politician that's doing a great job and people want to continue having that person represent them? It's a good argument. It's one of those arguments, yeah, ideally that would be the case. The problem is having too much power for too long leads to corruption. So it's one of those things that you kind of forfeit or compromise on that and say, listen, it does a lot more harm than it does good. And I think the same thing could be applied to what you're suggesting about smaller organizations. They should have some influence, but it does a lot more harm than it does good.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you letting me come up, and I love what you're doing. I said in the comments, I'm going to shoot you a message later. Like I said, I've got time on my hands. So if you need help, I heard you talk about Reddit the other day. If you need help with that, I can help you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Just check out the link underneath my profile because I added a few links yesterday in doing some of my administration sort of bureaucracy day, figuring out how I could possibly use help and where I could use help. It's always a fine balance. Like if I try and do too much now and have too many people helping, that actually is distracting as well. So everything is like I'm trying to move efficiently, but
No, I totally get it, and you're not obviously obligated to accept help or anything. I just said I figured
No,
I'd
no,
say
no. Thank
something.
you. Yeah. So please check out the link under the profile and see. I listed a bunch of things where I could use help. And I think at some point I'm going to have because I'm only reaching people on TikTok and YouTube right now. And that's not going to cut it. It's not even close to cutting it, right? I have to be on Reddit. I have to be on Instagram. I have to be on Substack and Medium and everything else. Otherwise, it's a road to nowhere.
Totally. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
wanna take me
Shadowcat.
off?
Yeah.
I don't know what's better for
Yeah,
you.
I'll take you off. Thanks for joining. I appreciate you being here. Sorry if my voice is a little crackling, which I feel like it is. It's because I'm cold. I'm sitting in
Are you cold?
I am cold, and I have a heater right in front of me. So
I have noticed that today. I was like, he seems like he's a little off today. So it's just because you're cold.
yeah, I have a little anxiety because I'm shivering almost a little bit.
I thought maybe you were getting sick or something.
No, I'm gonna have to figure out. I did a bunch of insulation in the garage and garage doors and so forth. So I literally am in the garage, and I have a little. I'm still working on the winter formula.
There you go.
All right, your voice is fine in the audio. Thank you. I can hear my own chatter, which is annoying.
Fred is back. It's Fred.
Oh, it's Fred. Well, Fred said something positive to me, so I'll take it unless he's just trolling me.
No.
No, I don't think he is either.
He seems like an okay guy.
No, Fred's great. We have some disagreements on the world order and so forth. That's fine. Everybody has their views. All right, so I'm going to take one last guest, I think, and then I'm going to grab some lunch, and then I'm going to come back later. Thanks for the likes, everybody. 11,000 likes. Again, please go to the link underneath my profile. There's a bunch of links there. There's one to YT. Please subscribe over there as well. That helps diversify the audience across multiple platforms. I have some people watching on YT right now as well, because I am broadcasting on both platforms. That's sort of my thoughts here. Can we ever become the United States of America, or is everybody resigned to thinking that we'll always be divided? Continuing to divide leads to catastrophe, right? If we continue the division, it's going to continue to get more divided, and no one wins. I think that's the real big point. We have 370 million people. And the thing about, even if you think you're winning now, if people continue to not obey the Constitution, the law of the land, and they're not respecting the laws, that is literally moving towards authoritarianism or something worse. Like, the whole point of having this document is that people have to be held accountable to the laws of the land. And if they're doing things outside the scope of the Constitution, they are literally breaking the law. So even if you're someone on the right who's saying, I believe in law and order, you're full of shit, because you can't believe in law and order for just the regular people or for immigrants or for somebody else and not your highest elected official or the executive or president of the United States. So this is the difference between values and justifying something, just an issue based on your belief. If you have a value that we should be a country of law and order, that needs to apply to every single person in the country, whether you're illegally here or you're president of the United States. Because, believe it or not, illegals, immigrants, have certain laws under the Constitution that we're supposed to go through some sort of hearing or process in order to have them deported. And that's law and order. You don't have to like it. You can change the laws. That's the beauty of it. If you truly want to change the laws of the land, you should change the law, and then you should implement that law. It's not that difficult. But that's the difference between a value and just believing in an issue. So I'm just going to respond to somebody on YouTube.
You bet. Brenda Davis earlier said what did she say? Hang on, let me find it. The empire is falling. I can't say that I disagree, but I think we have to be careful with what we use, what words we use, and how we describe things, because I think they can be somewhat like spells. I don't think the empire is falling. I think it's going through birthing and changing pains. We're having to go through a transition period, and we've got to figure out what we're going to do. I don't like this victim thing, or this like the sky is falling mentality, because it makes everybody,
Well,
it's like a
here's what
catatonic state.
here's what they
Just
probably
pause.
mean. They probably
Yeah.
mean the United States as a constitutional republic is on the verge of eventually, like, let's say, this is one thing is really clear. If Trump were to try and run for a third term, and if he somehow achieves that, which is against the law of the land, it's against the Constitution, that is the final nail in the coffin. That means democracy or representative democracy no longer exists. So in that respect, the constitutional republic is done. Done.
Yeah.
That means you now enter in an era of authoritarianism that might lead to theocracy, that might lead towards fascism, that might lead to a lot of things down the road. It doesn't happen in 1 year. These things take usually decades to manifest themselves. But I think what they're saying is that the Constitution will be irrelevant at that point. And it will be, right? Because you've now And the United States, as we know it as a American democracy, even though we're not currently functioning as one right now, like I always say, we're functioning as a corporatocracy, then it's over. Like you can even make the argument that as a representative democracy, it's already been gone for 20 or 30 years now, and we're operating as a corporatocracy. But it's still we're still voting in our people, and for the majority, the laws of the land have been generally respected, and the Constitution has been followed, and there have been some checks and balances that continue. But we're seeing it right now with the courts and the legislative branch. You can take the example of Ukraine. When Russell Voigt, who's Obama's Project 2025 coordinator, and he's head of the OMB, Office of Management, Budget and Management, OMB. Anyway, when he decided to halt the funds to Ukraine, that was an illegal activity because he's in the executive branch. Congress controls the purse. They authorized money to go to Ukraine. The OMB is basically just supposed to cut the check. But they stepped in and said, nope, that check is not going out. And that was the executive branch, which they have no business lawfully getting involved in. But they did it anyway. And the idea is that Congress is supposed to be the check and balance, and they're supposed to say, nope, it's going no matter what. But of course, the party became more important than the law, and the congressional party just followed the executive branch, which means now that check and balance was gone. There's no checks and balance.
He's not Brenda says he's not planning on leaving. That's why he's remodeling the White House. Hey, I'll be honest. I saw the images of the video, and I couldn't help but feel just like hurt that they were just demolishing what had already been built. You know how much effort has to go into building the White House? It's not like a typical house. They have to have the walls so thick. There has to be, it has to be like a bomb shelter. I don't know. I was just kind of
it's sickening.
disgusted by it.
Like, why? Like, this is like, out of all the issues we have in the world, this one doesn't ever even come onto the radar that the White House has to be renovated. Like the absurdity, like she says, he has no plan on leaving. He's got 3 years left, and he's actually planning on building this thing that no one asked for. And in the grand scheme of things, it's not an enormous amount of money in terms of, but it sends absolutely the wrong symbolism and the wrong message. And it most likely means he has no intention of leaving.
Well, he's going to leave. He has to leave, right?
Oh, I don't know. He doesn't have to leave. If you've controlled the military,
Well, we're gonna walk up there and be like, dude, no, you're leaving.
I hope millions of people, unless millions of people come together for multiple days and force them out, I think he might try and stay in. Well, he might not have to leave because he'll change possibly. Congress has a function to swear in the next president, right? Or to ratify the electorates. So you've seen him, they got the game plan. So Russell Voigt from Project 2025, he's got the game plan. He knows what he's a creepy little dude as well, who has wild Christian nationalist beliefs and wild bureaucracy beliefs. And he's the person that MAGA is actually following for draining the swamp. So there was a ProPublica video on YouTube about Russell Voigt. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but anyway.
Trump. There's a guy in the comments real quick, TK, sorry.
Yeah.
His name's Trump Wins. These guys are like lonely housewives. He's talking about us. He should come up. Let's ruin our day with one more person. And just so you know, Trump Wins, I did vote for him. It was the first time I ever voted, and you can hate me for it, you can love me for it, but I did vote for Trump. And I have my reasons as to why. But it just that we're coming back to the respect thing. Why can't we just have like respect from everybody? Just be respectful.
I have opinions on that. So Polaris said, imagine if Pence didn't certify the vote saying he lost in 2020. Would Vance do the same? Great point. So when you say Trump has to leave, they sort of already have the blueprint. There are some weaknesses in the law and how the swearing in and the certification of an election happens. And They bring a good point. If Vance decides not to swear in a new person, what happens? And that's the only reason that can happen is because of the division in the country. If there weren't that many people divided, like you have millions of people that would go to support Trump. And if he believes, like obviously the J6, if there's another J6 event and there's people sort of blocking other protesters, then it ends up devolving into some severe violence, right? That's right. Trump doesn't respect anything other than money. One thing, he does respect money or
And
values
Israel.
money. And
Israel.
well, that's money too, right? There's money. Yeah, he respects being.
He's the Prince of Peace, TK. He's the Prince of Peace. They told. That's what they said.
All right, we have some people on YouTube as well. The YouTube audience is growing each day, which is awesome. So welcome, Game Lion and Traveling Stardust. Good to see you here. That's right. Oh, great point. So Traveling Stardust says he told us he wasn't leaving. That's what I think she's mentioning. And that's right. Remember, I always say, Mr. Global, people always tell you and show you who they are. It's not that hard. They just tell you. They always tell you. Only the really smartest of the smartest psychopaths are doing things behind the scenes. And he's not a psychopath. He's a sociopath.
See ya, Polaris. Yeah, yeah.
And so that's right. So all you have to do is listen. When he says he wants Greenland and he wants to take over Greenland, he truly does. It doesn't mean he's doing it tomorrow, but ideally, or he wants to take over Canada, he's planting the seeds. No different than when Putin says the biggest geopolitical issue of our lifetimes was obviously the demise of the Soviet Union, and it should be reestablished. He told you back in 2008, this is what I want and this is what my goal is. President Xi of China tells you every day, practically, that he wants Taiwan. It's not just some words he's using. That's what he's going after. There's a strategy there. And you can take, obviously, IS as well. IS has a strategy. And they are trying to do things, whatever it works out to their best interest. So, great comment by Traveling Stardust. He told us he wasn't leaving. That's all you have to do. Listen, when a president says something, even if they have no values, trust them.
Yeah.
Trust what they say.
Somebody asked me why I voted for Trump, and I just, the only thing that I can say is that I saw the pendulum was swinging in one direction, and I was fearful of what the outcome was going to be. So I was trying to pull that energy back towards the other direction because I didn't like how far it was going that direction. Now it's getting pulled the other direction way too far. The Christian nationalists, it seems as if it's going to be the Christians against the Jewish people. I don't know. There's a lot more going on, and I don't want to get into my personal outlook on everything because this isn't my platform. So,
well, at the end of the day, what people don't realize, especially those on the right now, because they feel like they're winning and they feel like they're going in the right direction. No, this applies to the left just as well. It's a balance beam. It's a seesaw, and that democracy sits right in the middle, and it just teeters a little bit each side back and forth. Right? I wanted to make a video on this, and that is where democracy and capitalism live, right in the center, and it's always a balance. And you got to be careful because that's why it's an experiment. It's an unending, everlasting seesaw. That's what it's supposed to be. And if it ever falls or is weighted to one side or the other too much, then it's gone forever. And so when people realize when it's on the left, so I gotta do the opposite. When it's on the left, it's seesaw. If it goes too much weight, you get socialism, like real socialism, like in China, or communism. If it goes, and it won't come back. It doesn't come back. You'll never get it balanced out again unless there's major revolution. But it probably will never come back. And if it goes the other way,
it's usually caused by famine.
Right.
Anytime we've gone to war or a war has started, it's been over a famine. So,
or religion, you could say, right? Or some religious forces.
touche. Yeah,
right.
That's a good point.
And if it goes too far the other way, which it is right now, if you're starting to weight it too far to the right, then you start with authoritarianism or some sort of monarchy if it's a family-oriented deal, which you could almost claim. Or then it moves usually to, if it's any religion involved, then it moves to theocracy. So it moves, I got to be on screen. So balance, authoritarianism, then theocracy, and then fascism is the ultimate spectrum, right? So you have communism all the way over here and fascism over here when it gets weighted too much. But if it's directly in the middle, and that's what we should always be fighting for, going back and forth. It's like literally being on a seesaw and the other guy moves and you got to move a little bit more over just to keep the balance. Otherwise it falls down. And that's what on the right's happening right now, that everybody's moved just too far to the right and the left can't move fast enough to the other side. Right. And like everybody,
I
at the end of the day, we were all going to fall off of it.
well, or the bearings in the mechanism that's holding it up is going to fall apart.
Right.
Somebody
Right.
needs to, somebody needs to grease up that ball bearing.
The weird thing is the representatives are not on the seesaw with us. The representatives are hanging above the seesaw, and all the money that's influencing them, they're not on the seesaw, which they should be, right? If they were representing us, they should be equalizing each side of the seesaw, but they're not on the seesaw. So the billionaires, the special interests, the foreign agents, the Christian nationals, the corporate dictators, and our politicians, none of them are on the seesaw. They're just watching. They're just watching people like fall either side. They're just saying, oh, when they fall, we're going to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, I agree with the people that say that they should have their income should be based on their state's median salary. I agree with that.
The ASFI photographer says, yikes, TK, that's not socialism. Are you talking about China? If you're talking about China, it is socialism. China is a socialistic economy. It has a communist party, but they run a socialism society. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to. But
Where's Rick when we need him?
right, Rick will tell us. I wish I could find your live on TT, which I can't find. It's the same. It's at TK. Oh, it's actually at TK.civics. At TK.civics. I'll write it in the comments. All right. What should we come back later for, Mr. Global? Same topic or something a little variant, nuanced?
I love the AI topic, but it's your prerogative.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that for sure. I don't know if today I'm trying to leverage the audience that's seen the last video and sort of stay on that topic because I think that's where there's the most interest.
Touche.
But maybe there's one more
I'm down
guest.
for whatever.
All right, Mike, 1, 2, 3. You're the last guest, and then I'm going to go eat lunch. 2 minutes. Where do you stand politically, and what generation are you?
I don't see him in the box.
Oh, did he? I think. No, he dropped. He must have doom scrolled. Said I'm not sticking around. Okay. All right, closing remarks. Please remember to like, follow, and really important, if you're interested in seeing the plan, go to my profile. There's a link under my profile that brings you to a whole bunch of other links. It shows the plan on Medium and on Substack. It actually has a couple other articles as well for possible volunteers, and really important that you subscribe on YT. That helps me out dramatically. Mike 1, 2, 3 might be back. Fred, come back later, Fred. Fred wants to jump in, but I want to shut it down. I'm getting very hungry and I need to warm up, and I need to figure out a better solution to keep myself a little bit more warm.
You need a heating blanket.
That's a great idea. That is an excellent idea. I will actually do that. So I'll be shopping on Amazon shortly. All right. So thank you everybody for watching. I'll probably come back around 3 or 4 p.m. Pacific time, which is 5 or 6 p.m. Eastern time. And I'll probably post it in a scheduled live. So thanks everybody for watching. Fred, I'll see you later if you're around. And let's try and be united, right? 28th and 29th Amendment. Thank you everybody for watching, and as I always do, I leave it on a speech. I'm going to do Ted Lasso today about, if you want to talk about team unity, which is what America is. Here's a speech from Ted Lasso to close out the live, showing or explaining that it's all about uniting behind a goal.
Belief doesn't just happen because you hang something up on a wall. All right? Comes from in here, you know? And up here, down here. Only problem is we all got so much junk floating through us. A lot of times we end up getting in our own way. You know, crap like envy or fear, shame. I don't want to mess around with that shit anymore. You know what I mean? Do you?
No, coach.
No. Do you?
No.
No, me neither. Hell no. Now, you know what I want to mess around with? The belief that I matter, you know? Regardless of what I do or don't achieve. Or the belief that we all deserve to be loved. Or what about the belief of hope? Yeah? That's what I want to mess with. Believing that things can get better, that I can get better, that we will get better. Oh, man. To believe in yourself, to believe in one another, man, that's fundamental to being alive. And look, yo, hey, if you can do that, if each of you can truly do that, can't nobody rip that apart. See y'all Monday?
See you all later. Thank you.